can't say that I expected it to be you.
You neither. It didn't seem the type for a low profile.
Well, what can I say? You're just a little more real when people can't assign you a face.
I never would have thought about it that way.
Okay, let's cut the off-the-air chatter. Anything you want to say or address before we go live? Any spreadable sicknesses, cult propaganda, or outstanding murder charges? Otherwise, we've got a show to do.
Ladies and gentlemen of Eastmouth, welcome to the party. We are live with our first official guest. Pretty righteous, right? No hashing this up. No, we'll be getting into the nitty-gritty of the happenings of the town. So you'll want to keep your ear holes locked to your radio. But before we get into all that, we've got another advertisement for you cool cats. I'm sure you've heard of this place, but even beyond getting paid for this, I can personally say that I love this business. The Renaissance is Eastmouth's one and only theater. Don't you want to get more out of life with an experience that is clean, hip, and exciting? The Bonnie and Clyde motion picture is opening this weekend. All the critics have been raving about it. It's a non-stop ride about a waitress who falls wildly in love with an ex-con. There's danger, there's mayhem, there's love, and there's a whole lot of money. It's sure to rock your week. So why not go check it out? After all, it's not like you can see it anywhere else.
Really? There's gotta be other theaters playing it. Just might mean a bit of a drive.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the guest of tonight's show. Excuse him for being rude. We've got a great broadcast planned for you tonight.
Rude? How is that rude?
He's got quite the story to tell, folks.
I do?
He does. A tale of mystery and excitement. Not to mention some interesting takes. Tonight is sure to be a thrill.
What? I never said that.
The Eastmouth podcast is written, directed, and narrated by DC Tullis. Based on the world created by DC and J.D. Tullis.
Welcome back, good citizens. We've got quite a groovy story for you tonight. I introduce to you M, the winner of my challenge.
Hey.
So, why don't you tell the good folks exactly how you did it, and spare no interesting detail while you're at it.
He left a riddle, I solved it, and found the coordinates, the time and date, and a key.
Well, that's a gross oversimplification, don't you think? You're the guest, so I'd prefer if you could bring the oomph to the story, you know? But hey, I could tell it too.
What do you care about oomph? It's not that dramatic.
Please.
Well, I've been listening since the second broadcast, and it's been quite the show so far.
Thank you. I do put passion into my role.
That challenge you offered, I thought it would be an interesting opportunity to meet the man behind the voice. I had started around town, looking for anything of value. I tried John Mason, I tried the library, I tried the fence of the forest around Main Street, I tried...
Now, don't keep our audience guessing. Where did you find it?
The statue of Pierre Dubois in the Southern Park, the one right across from Horn's bookshop.
Yes, I know where the park is. I left the note there. Anyway, I was hoping that would be the one to be caught. Did he move, by the way, as in get up and follow you around a little?
No.
Unfortunate. That would have been quite the spectacle.
Anyway, I'd been searching for a while before I noticed something. Another 2 people looked to be doing the exact same thing.
Really? Who might those be?
Can't tell. Honestly, don't know. Some 20-something blonde girl and a grizzly-looking old guy with a belly and a beard.
Well, I can't fault you on detail.
Nope. Anyway, on the statue, he'd left a scrunched-up piece of paper with some Latin on it.
Now, can I ask how you know Latin? Or did you take a visit to the library?
I just do. Sort of. Saxum sub lumine. The stone under the light. Now, I'm not much for riddles, Solomon. That was a bit too easy, though. It led me to a boulder underneath the lighthouse. A little tricky. Stumped me for a couple minutes. Thought it was about the sun, but I've played with riddles before.
Good man. And entirely unexpected. Congratulations, and no candy assery on your part either. You did come. Would have been quite the bland broadcast otherwise.
Yep.
So, what would you say is your view on the current drama surrounding the town council? There's lots of rumors circulating. Hiding a crashed UFO, being infiltrated by commies.
The color-coordinated jogging was a bit weird.
That's it? Nothing to say about the allegations? Alright. What then would you say is the best place to eat in Eastmouth?
I don't got much money to spend eating out. I like noodle time.
Well, there you have it, folks. Our winner has cast his vote towards noodle time. Would any disagree that it is the best place to get a quick bite in Eastmouth? Noodle time, if you would like to reach out with an advertisement, I would be much obliged.
I didn't say that. Stop putting words in my mouth and trying to push me to say things, dick.
Okay, I can see that I hit a nerve. Look, I'm just trying to run a show. Okay, do you have any stories that would, well, fit the mood?
You mentioned the loveless Will-O-Way Banshee last broadcast, right?
I did. Why?
I've got quite the story about that broad. I haven't lived in this town my entire life. My folks moved around quite a bit when I was a kid, but my father learned this story pretty early on. He went camping a year ago, right in these woods. Not quite around town, but close.
Go on.
Right, so anyway, it's me and my dad. Cold, dreary night. A little unusual for a summer evening. We're sitting around this fire we built, this tent right behind us. He's got a pipe out. And he looks to me with these big eyes and asks, "Wanna hear a story?"
I'm already shivering.
I'm all ears for what he's got to tell me. He always had the best stories. These fishermen were drinking at the Lorelei with him when they started telling ghost stories. They're really creepy local legends that you can't get out of someone unless you loosen them up.
Not the way that you, personally, loosen someone up, right? You mean with booze.
Do you want the damn story or not?
Fair enough. Continue. I will stop being a drag.
Thank you. It started on a real creepy night, just like this one. Apparently, Will-O-Way was just a regular street in Eastmouth. There wasn't anything that set it apart, except that no one had built on it. It was empty from the orchard at the start of the street to the graveyard at the end of it. This young couple, Meredith and Edward Macedo, had begun building a house on it. Everything was well. A happy marriage, a kid on the way. They finished the house halfway through the pregnancy. Edward was a fisherman.
Everyone is a goddamn fisherman here.
You're not wrong about that. But the storm didn't care. A late November night brought fierce waves that threw Edward right off the vessel. He was never seen again. The news, well, it didn't sit too well with Meredith. 2 weeks later, after nothing had turned up, she drank herself numb and then took a revolver to her head.
Hold on, I don't remember the pregnancy part of the story.
That's the part the fishermen keep to themselves. It's a bit more gruesome with that detail.
It's heavy, all right.
The house is now freshly built, but entirely deserted. So after a year, the garden is overgrown and someone's thrown a brick through the front bay window. No one wanted to touch it at first. It was an eyesore. Town council figures they can't just leave it there, so they claim it after a while and sell it to someone else.
I can only assume that doesn't go too well.
You assume right. Most didn't want the house, but one elderly sea captain wasn't scared. He's braved it all, and when he was face to face with the rising waves, he didn't see anything beyond. No deeper level, no belief in anything lingering.
Like a ghost.
Some sort of energy, refusing to go beyond. Yeah, this fisherman sees the property as a steal. He's unmarried and owns few possessions, so when he moves into this spacious home, he's entirely ready to spend the next decade or two there peacefully. And it was all right at first. No sudden appearances, no flickering lights or cold spots, just a beautiful house he needed to clean up. After the guy's been there for 2 or 3 years, the stigma around the house began to fade. Kids would ride to the end of Willow Way and stare out into the ocean as they'd have picnics. They'd play games, go on dates there, hell, even if you painted the view. And every time that they'd return on that gravel road, their bikes pelting little rocks at the fisherman's yard, he'd wave back at them. There was only one red flag about that house at all in that time. One night, the fisherman was blitzed down at the Lorelei, talking to a couple of current crew members of the ship he used to captain. They'd been asking the guy about how he'd settled into retirement. Just like the old sea dog bastard that he was, he'd been telling them about how much he missed the thrill. And then he'd gone real silent for a minute, looked away and back, and then whispered something real strange. Every once in a while, when he was sitting in the kitchen, drinking just like he was that night, he'd feel a weird little spike of adrenaline, like he was being watched, and then he'd smell sulfur. Very faintly, but just enough for a real whiff. He didn't hear gunshots, and he'd peek out the windows and see no one around. Nothing at all, but the still night.
It's very interesting. I'd heard it a little differently, though. Well, way I'd heard it, the wife hung herself, and it was another young married couple that had moved in.
That's the idiot's version. Dumbed down local muck. It's transmuted by a bunch of kids.
Okay, continue then. You are quite the storyteller, and this version is certainly more interesting.
Right, so the other guys think it had just been a prank, and hell, maybe it had. Wouldn't put it past some of the flakes in this town. Would have hacked me up in his shoes, but the old fisherman didn't seem to mind. He kept his cool, after all. The guy didn't believe in anything past the dirt at the foot of the cemetery. Are you sure we can't get hit out here?
Doubt it. You never know, but it hasn't happened to me so far, so I'd call that quite the start.
So the other sailors put it out of their minds, and the kids keep waving at the guy as they cruise down his street. Nothing changes. Well, not until the kids notice that no one's been waving at them for the last week. Didn't really notice at first, but when it continues on for a month, one of the kids eventually tells their parents, and they go knocking with a few portholers. They find the front door unlocked, which wasn't all too odd back then, but when one of them goes inside, he tells something to the parent. Dad doesn't let his kid inside, but it didn't matter, as the smell had already begun to leak out. The old fisherman captain had shot himself inside the kitchen, point blank in the skull.
The storm sure likes your story.
Hey, you asked for the story, asshole.
I did, but I don't remember it like that. It's quite the story, though, isn't it? A real shivering, grody kind of tale.
It's not just a story.
And what exactly do you mean by that?
I've felt her, and maybe even him.
Hold the phones, folks of Eastmouth. Are you telling me that you are certain that you've made contact with a ghost, let alone the ghost of one of the most popular urban legends in 200 miles?
It's not that simple, but yes.
Now do tell, and hold back no details.
I'm not sure your viewership is going to like it. There are elements in it which might shock some sensibilities.
Ah, dear Eastmouth, I loved you. Despite the rumors and the oddities, you've birthed me, you've clothed me. But this, yes, this I've gotta know. Plus, this'll do wonders for ratings. So, please do continue.
Okay. It was quite the stormy night.
Isn't it always?
It is. And this was no different. I'd heard the story, so I wanted to check it out for myself. I'd packed with what I'd need for a seance.
A seance? And what does one need for a seance?
Rock salt, a steel knife, candles, olive oil, a bowl, and some chalk.
And how exactly do you know what someone would need for a seance?
I've read some stuff. Anyway, let's keep going, please.
You really don't look like the reading sort.
I swear, do not make me hit you.
Whoa, okay. Continue on then.
Thank you. So, there I was, standing in front of the ghost house. It didn't feel odd on the porch. Place looked real grungy, as if it had been abandoned for who knows how long. There was a padlock on the front door, but the windows were unlocked, which isn't too bright if you don't want people exploring. It looked like it had recent use, actually. Strangely
Recent
enough.
use? As in how? Like, other people trying to figure out the legend, or...?
Maybe. I just saw 2 sets of footprints in the dust. It had seemed recent at the time. Anyway, I climbed through a window in the back and shut it behind me. Nothing real spooky about the place at all. No cold touches, nothing. So I made my way to the kitchen and set up. It was almost completely abandoned. Spiderwebs hanging from the ceilings, the little bastards climbing out of the drain. I grabbed the chalk from my backpack and began to draw.
Draw what exactly?
A pentagram. Forward facing, of course, though I'm not really sure spirits care.
For what does the direction have to do with it?
Interesting that you ask that. Classical chemistry, magic, and Christianic faith used it upwards. Upside down was always considered an offense. A few people were even put to death over it. It's just kind of agreed upon.
Well, this is all news here, folks. How do you even know this stuff?
Not getting into that. So I drew the shape, filled a bowl with the olive oil and laid it in the center, and kept the container of rock salt and the steel knife off to the side, just outside of the outer circle.
What would you even need olive oil for?
Listen, asshole, I'm getting to that part. Just let me explain it.
Fair enough.
So there I was, meditating, getting in sync with the atmosphere. It still felt entirely normal. Nothing but the usual feelings of being watched in an old house. Spent a good 10 minutes just breathing and visualizing what a specter might look like if it appeared. And then I grabbed the knife, which was just outside of the circle, and slit the tip of my right thumb.
You did what?
I slit the skin and let the blood drip into the bowl. Drip, drip, drip. I felt the pain, and I meditated on it as well.
Okay, but what...
And then I began to ask some questions. Who are you? Are you here right now? Were you killed wrongfully? Do you have bad intentions? And there was nothing. Nothing at all. So I resumed my meditation for another minute, and then I began to ask questions of a more personal nature. What did you think of the other tenant who shot himself? Were you and your husband happy in marriage? Did your husband have a funeral before you died? Were you with child when you passed? Are you still here?
And this all actually happened... Right. Continue.
And at first, there was nothing, but gradually, the scent of sulfur began to leak into the air. It was awfully cold, too, like a winter's breeze had snuck in through an open window. I started feeling awfully uncomfortable as each muscle in my body began to tense.
Well, shit. We've lost power. God.
You've got a fuse box somewhere in here, right?
Yes. Okay, people aren't going to listen very long if the show's off the air. Let's just get this done. Follow me. This place always gives me the damn creeps.
You got any real light down here?
There's a flashlight somewhere in this mess. That works too, I suppose.
Ugh, you really ought to clean this place.
Maybe one day. You see any replacements around here?
Try this.
Thanks. Anyway, while we're off air, I genuinely apologize if I've been acting like a bit of a phony tonight. I'd like to put on a show, and sometimes I just get too excited.
It's okay. I kind of figured that was what's going on.
Good. Well, glad we cleared that up.
It sure rains a lot around here. Nothing like Arizona.
Yeah, nothing like Arizona. So as the power comes up, should be less than a minute, I've got to ask, how do you know all this stuff? I mean, about ghosts and rituals specifically. You've always seemed the sort of guy who'd rather threaten someone into doing your homework than ever spend 15 minutes reading.
That really hurts, you know? Asshole. How do you know this? How do I know this? Ah, screw it. I got a whole bookshelf full of shit like this. The occult, ghosts, and afterlife. I guess I've just always been intrigued by the topics like that. I still don't really know what I believe in, but I'm sure I felt something in that house. I'm not telling a fairy tale, Obediah.
Maybe, or maybe not. Or maybe so. I'm a skeptic at heart too, so I can't just accept it, but I would like to. Any particular reason it's the occult and not anything else for you?
Because it means there's something more. Something more than just moving faces in not so distant places. Something secret to look forward to.
I get that, I really do. Myself, Victoria, Caleb, my friends here, we've all known each other since we were kids. Although it's been a pretty recent development, we've all just sort of used this station, and I guess the rumors about this town as a sort of escape too. Everything's just a little dysfunctional here. Who would have thought?
Well, let me know when you find out.
Welcome back, good folks. Just a little tiny creepy outage, and at the worst time too. Maybe our guest is right, and just maybe the Banshee has left her dreary residence. Time will tell, folks, but now we've got a story to complete.
Right. Where was I?
I think you were describing your flu symptoms?
Ah, yes. My body had tensed up, and the air all around me had grown icy. I'd risen to my feet, still in the circle, and I tried to ask questions. There was no response. I tried again and again, inching my way closer to the smell of sulfur, which had centered itself just a few feet outside of the circle, facing the back door of the kitchen. And then, with a toe only half an inch over the circle of chalk, A deep breath hit me, forcibly relaxing me, and then the cold was gone, and then the scent was too.
What? No stabbing battle with an angry ghost? Seriously, no appearance? I can't say that the actual story ended as satisfactorily as the ghost story that spawned it.
They never quite do.
What? What'd you say?
That's another topic on its own.
What? Okay, dear citizens of Eastmouth, that was tonight's bone-chilling, spooktacular tale of ghostliness. I've still got my doubts, but it was framed in a rather convincing manner. And on that note, I'm continuing what I started in the last broadcast. With a flip of a switch, the calls will be open. Caller, you are live and on the air. What do you think about the story of the loveless Willoway Banshee?
I want to voice my opinion about this show and how you've handled this segment tonight.
Hey, I'm the guest tonight, and since I led the 2 stories, what would you like to say?
What you did was sick, dangerous, and disrespectful. You're off your cob and you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Whoa! Lady, to what sick, dangerous, and disrespectful action are you referring to?
That blaspheming ritual, attempting to speak to the dead. I knew when I'd heard that they'd built a Church of Satan in San Francisco that it would spread all the way over to Eastmouth.
There was nothing satanic in that ritual at all. Ma'am, you do realize that people have been trying to contact the dead since before the dawn of writing? Certainly much earlier than that. All over the world, culture to culture.
Can't you see that you're playing with fire? That your soul will be damned? That you'll bring hellfire to this town? That you'll...
Hey, that was an interesting conversation.
Conversation or not, let's just hope that your story hasn't brought out a pitchfork-wielding mob. Okay, next caller, you are on the air, and please don't start accusing my guest of things prematurely.
Accuse? No. We've got a far worse problem on our hands, gents.
And what might that problem be?
Big, hairy man.
Okay.
Bigfoot.
Oh, golly, not again.
But don't kill the line just yet, Solomon. Sir, what do you have to say about Bigfoot?
I've seen him here, lurking in the forest, staring out at me with those big red eyes right between the trees. I've seen him on the shore when I night fish eyeing me behind the rocks. I've seen him running through the corner of my eye when I drive out to Eastport. We've got our own Bigfoot in Eastmouth, and I'm gonna catch him before he kills anyone else.
Anyone else? What?
Johnson, don't you fools get it? He's the one that strung up Johnson. Johnson wasn't suicidal, but that Bigfoot is sneaky. And if we don't band together, he'll string up all of us, one by...
Congratulations on being the first guest on air here, and the first guest to drop a caller. Okay, we've got one more caller on the line, Eastmouth. Fingers crossed that it will be a normal call.
Boys, thank God you picked up. I hit something on the way back into town.
If it's a person, this was the wrong number to call.
No, it moved so fast. It was too dark to see properly, even with my headlights. After I hit it, it scurried off so fast.
Thank God it's not dead then.
That's not what worries me. It was eating a cow. Inside's all ripped to shreds. Appendages everywhere.
Renhilda.
What could you have possibly hit that could take down a cow and walk away from a crash like that?
I don't know, boys. Thank the Lord dearly that I installed one of those General Electric phones in my dashboard, else I'd be stuck out here. Just me and it. I was driving back from relatives downstate, listening to the show. The rain had started a good 20 minutes back in. And
Deep breath. Come on now.
Wait, you said that the light from your headlights caught it. What did you see?
3 eyes. 3 bloodshot, yellow eyes.
Oh, shit.
I've got my Smith & Wesson right here.
No, get back in your car and drive towards town.
You can't do that, boys. Whatever it is, it busts my radiator pretty bad when I hit it. Can't start the darn thing right.
Okay, I'm going to get on the other phone here and call in the county sheriff and Farmer Bilge, okay? Just be careful.
What? Call? I saw it. Don't worry, boys. I've got a shot.
Don't! Get back in your car and wait for help.